I have 6:57. I'm going to go ahead and reconvene this meeting. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Counselor Irvin,
Here.
Counselor Heinck,
Here.
Counselor Lammerman,
Here.
Counselor Merriday, Counselor Settlemeyer,
Here.
Counselor Wilson,
Here.
Mayor Soulsby.
Here. I'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Items to be added to the agenda. We have an item that needs to be added by motion, unanimous vote. And it is for the 2026 State of the Trees Address, which will go in item 6C. Counselor Irvin.
Mayor, I move that the council approve the addition of the State of the Trees address to item 6C.
I second.
We have a motion with the second. Will the recorder? Oh, sorry. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. So we will be adding that to item 6C. Special presentations. Cottage Grove Garbage Service, Tim Alverson.
Good evening. My name's Tim Alverson. I'm with Cottage Grove Garbage Service and here tonight to talk about what's new with recycling here in Cottage Grove. I guess to give a little context, what's new, it's probably a good idea to talk about what's happened in the past. In 1983, the Oregon legislature passed the opportunity to recycle laws. Those laws mandated any municipality of 4,000 or greater to provide recycling services to the community. In 1988, the franchise agreement between Cottage Grove Garbage Service and the city of Cottage Grove was amended to add recycling to the franchisee's responsibilities. That language says that the city council decides what materials are recyclable. And at the time, it's 7 items, and it's really only 5, but they got glass broken into 3 colors: green glass, brown glass, clear glass. Has to be source separated. Cardboard, newspapers, tin cans, and aluminum cans. So those were the 7 items at the time. And so when we collected those materials, we had 7 different bins on the truck. So green glass went into a bin and brown glass went into a bin and so on and so forth. Everything was separated at the collection point. In the mid 2000s, we went from material separation to commingling certain items. Glass wasn't commingled, but all of those other items, tin cans, aluminum, cardboard, newspapers, were commingled together. In 2020, the Oregon legislature passed a Recycling Modernization Act. And so that went through several years of rulemaking and committees, DEQ committees pretty much decided what materials would be collected in the future. And they developed what's called the Uniform Statewide Collection List. And we'll talk about that in a little bit here. And so really one of the main components of that legislation was to make producers of certain materials responsible for their end life. So they have to pay into, or they actually, there's an entity called the Circular Action Alliance, which is the Producer Responsibility Organization. They were appointed by the Department of Environmental Quality to fulfill that role. So they're responsible for collecting based on metric tonnage of material produced from the producers' fees. And those fees in turn are being used for investment in new recycling. And we'll talk about that later as well. And so that kind of will lead into what's new in recycling here in Cottage Grove. So beginning July 2025, a new material list known as the Uniform Statewide Collection List became the official recyclable commingled materials list for all generators. To date, here in Cottage Grove, all participating commercial, institutional, and multifamily recyclers have received a new blue 65-gallon roll cart for commingled materials that are listed on the Uniform Statewide Collection List. The distribution of the blue recycle carts to curbside recyclers, which are the residential recyclers, began in April of 26. And we are slowly deploying those in a strategic manner so we just don't overwhelm the current collection system. Next. So along with that, there's all of this new messaging. I think you folks all got a copy of the recycling guide and the oops tags and the stickers the container stickers. So statewide, this is the same information that's being disseminated to everybody. The blue recycle carts, that center image, that is the lid of the new cart. It has recycling stamped on the top. It also has recycling in 9 other languages, the word recycling. And obviously we don't want no trash or glass in those blue bins. I'm ready for the next. So material collection before and after the Uniform Statewide Collection List. So prior to July 1, 2025, we were collecting newspapers, catalogs, flattened cardboard, paper egg cartons, paper bags, tin and aluminum cans, clean aluminum foil at the curbside. All of that could be commingled. We also collected food and beverage grade glass that could not be commingled. That was either set outside the bin or a customer provided container in a customer provided container. Beginning July 1, the Uniform Statewide Collection List has all of the materials on the right-hand side of the screen there. It's 3 times the number of items that we were collecting prior. And so we started collecting all of those materials beginning July 1, but we were collecting them in a 14-gallon recycle bin. We did not have the recycle carts yet. A number of commercial, institutional, and multifamily did have recycled carts, but they were just an oddball mix of different color carts. They didn't have recycling stamped on them at all. So with the Recycling Modernization Act, we pretty much applied for funding to expand the recycling system here in Cottage Grove. So we're investing $665,000 in a new automated truck, 3,000 new blue recycle carts, a new smart truck platform, and we'll talk about that in a minute as well. And then education and outreach materials. That's okay. The bottom, so that truck image is very similar to the truck that we have ordered. I don't know if you guys have seen the front end loader, the green has a green body on it. So that new truck will come with that new green body on it. That truck is probably just a little bit larger than the one we're getting. The bottom image is the blue recycle carts. I flipped that one over for a reason. There's a serial number on the back of that cart. So just keep that in mind when we get further down here, and there's a reason for that. So I'm ready. So under the new Recycling Modernization Act, there is a number of new state statutes regarding contamination reduction. So all service providers, if they were going to access the contamination reduction funding that's available to the community, had to have an approved, an approved plan. So ours is 3 parts. The Smart Truck platform, which is a 3-camera system paired with AI software that's on the new truck to detect contamination. So that new truck you've seen will have this Smart Truck platform installed on it. The use of OOPS tags, which you guys got a copy of all of those. We're actually using those right now because we are still manually handling multifamily, commercial, and institutional materials in the blue recycling carts manually. It's not being picked up by an automated truck. So, so when we tip those, and if there's contamination in those, we use that OOPS tag to let the customer know. We leave that OOPS tags with the container and usually with the material, and they usually will clean it up and then give us a call, and then we return and tip that. And then the third component of our contamination reduction plan is a 3-strike policy, which was really pushed by the state of Oregon. Basically, on the 3rd infraction, recycler will lose the opportunity to recycle, and the recycle cart is pulled. Under the new contamination reduction statutes, the state of Oregon has a goal of no more than 10% contamination. We're over 30% right now statewide. So that's the reason for the expected strong enforcement of the contamination reduction rules. So how does the Smart Truck platform work? What you're looking at is you're looking into the hopper of a garbage truck from the top down. So you see the blade that pushes the material back into the body. So you can see this camera system identifies, in this case, a plastic bag with something in it, and textiles. It looks like clothing. So, so the Smart Truck platform picks this up. Next. And then when contamination is detected, the AI software identifies the recycle cart with contaminants by serial number. And so that's each one of those recycle carts has a serial number on the back. So when that cart is tipped, one of the cameras is able to read that serial number. So they'll know who that cart belongs to, because that cart is attached to a customer's account. And then first infractions receive written communication, and just kind of more encouragement, letting them know what they did and that they can do better. And we'll look at a sample of that here in a second. And then the second infraction receives escalated written communication, and the third time they receive a letter and lose the opportunity to recycle, and the recycle cart is pulled. So the city of Tampa, this is their first infraction notice, Tampa, Florida, that is. So on the left is the front of the card. It just says, are you confused about recycling? You know, you're not alone, ... And the QR code could be scanned, and that will link to the recycling guide that we have. And then obviously the other side is, when we emptied your recycle truck, our team noticed no items in your cart. This is a different cart, not the one we just looked at, but yard waste was in this one. So, and then obviously failure to comply with the city of Tampa's curbside recycling program guidelines may result in removal of your recycle cart. And then a little encouragement, you know, to the, you can do better. Sad face right now. So want to make that a smile. Anyway, and then last, we're planning to end glass collection. And I know there's been some folks in the community that have expressed some concern about that. And there's reasons behind that. So to begin with, we have a very, very low collection volume. Like our 2025 tonnage could fit in a 20 by 20 by 8 foot space. And we're talking about the amount of glass material we collected over a 52-week period. So I don't know, 20 by 8 foot tall. So it's not that much. And glass collection it's expensive, and it's a safety issue. But if we were continuing to collect glass, a new dedicated glass collection route would need to be established, obviously, with the current system transitioning over to automated. Glass would then have to be collected by a separate vehicle. And the annual operating cost of that new route would be $120,000 and it would require an 8% increase in the in-city roll cart and container rates to fund. The opportunity to recycle glass is available here in Cottage Grove still at the Sears Road Transfer Station. And once again, our plan is to phase glass collection out and end it on May 31st as we're transitioning to the automated collection route. And then worker safety is a huge issue we've been running, and I'm sure everybody has probably seen our collectors out there on a rear loader, and we have an individual, a laborer that rides on a riding platform. So we've had too many injuries over the years with that application. Just besides getting cut by glass and or glass shards when you throw them in the bin, a piece of glass getting in your eye. We've had an employee break their ankle and had to have pins put in, required surgery, and severed their anterior cruciate ligament in their knee, just stepping on and off that truck. And then, the workers on that truck are really exposed to, when they're on the back of that throwing material in there, they're exposed to traffic, oncoming traffic. Luckily, we haven't had an incident, but anyway, that's our reasoning for ending the glass collection. So, and that's it.
Thank you, Tim. Do we
Anybody have any questions?
Any questions? Counselor Merriday.
Thank you, Mayor. We appreciate you coming to explain the program. Contamination goes back a long ways, and I believe it is one of the reasons that many supplier or potential customers for recyclables have rejected loads of recyclables is due to the contamination. People often think they're doing a good thing by including the recyclable material, but leave food waste or include other things that aren't recyclable. Maybe you could back me up on that or
Well,
not.
yeah, that's absolutely true. We call it wishful recycling. So obviously, people, feel certain things should be recyclable in spite of the fact they're not on the list. They throw them in the recycle bin or in the recycle cart. Obviously, when you mix glass in there, glass tends to break. And so if that gets tipped into a truck, we're contaminating the entire load with what we call sparkle, the broken glass, because that just can't be removed during the sorting process at all. So, yeah.
Anyone else?
Seen it, but I heard that you incorporated that the team here incorporated glass into your service obligations under the franchise ordinance. Are you asking to have that amended?
Well, that is dated, that the language, the materials, obviously statewide, the uniform statewide collection is what's mandated now by the state. So that does need a refresh.
It sounds, it sounds to me like to get everyone on the same page, this might be something to be brought back or for you to bring a proposal.
We're happy to continue the glass collection, but it's expensive. Like I said, the fund cost require an 8% increase in current rates for roll card commercial.
Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to raise that so everybody's aware of what I heard and, the two conflicting things I heard.
It was implied.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Conley.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Counselor Sotomayor.
I supply pizza to a club, a lot of pizza. This says dry pizza boxes, but no food residue. Does that include the grease from?
So basically, that's, we're just going to have to leave that up to the generator to decide. Basically, it's saying clean and dry. I know that sounds somewhat ambiguous, but it can be interpreted in many ways, but they're asking for all the material to be clean and dry. That's one of the reasons we're providing the recycle part now also. It has a lid. So it will, those materials can remain dry. So they don't like the extra water weight when we tip that stuff. So meaning currently with the bins, if it's rainy out, all that material gets wet, especially cardboard. And so,
Counselor Urban.
Thank you, Mayor. Following up on the ramifications. So we've got a franchise agreement that requires the garbage hauler to also take glass as recycling. Is that not just
yeah,
in
the way the franchise agreement's currently written, and I'll be happy to read it. I got a copy.
So presumably, let's just, for the sake of this discussion, say that you would be in violation as of July 1st or June 1st.
Yeah, yes and no, but we would need the funding to fund a new dedicated glass collection route. So if you're gonna say do it, but we're not giving you the funding, I would say that we're in a conundrum, because I'm not, also the franchise agreement allows us to cover our costs and a reasonable rate of return. So there's kind of two pieces to that,
So presumably to not have that situation come up, we would need to have a revision to that by June 1st. Or acknowledgement or a decision one way or another, I would presume. So I'm in favor of having that come back as soon as possible.
I agree. I'm not sure.
yeah. So I'm willing, obviously, to continue until we make that transition we're expecting delivery of our new automated truck in July. It was ordered 14 months ago, so it's taken a bit, but it should be here in July. I'm willing to continue the glass collection until that new truck is put in service, because the other truck will be taken out of service that has the ability to hold glass, because we're no longer going to be manually collecting any material. Unless we do develop and establish a new dedicated glass collection.
Sir.
Yeah, probably options. I mean, it would be good to be part of that discussion. It'd be good to have a refresher what the franchise agreement states. And if, I don't think we're here for a decision right now, but really it seems like the discussion is an 8% rate increase to maintain the status quo, or we're changing the agreement to allow the dropping of that requirement.
Anyone else? No. Do we need a consensus?
Yes, so what would be protocol to request I can do that.
Well, good evening, Your Honor, members of the council. The last time we did a rate increase was, let me get the right date in front of me.
April 1, 2025.
April 1, 2025. And so if you would like to propose another rate increase, just that same format, we'll say you send a letter to the city.
Yeah, so what I was asking, what the protocol would be to review the amendment that was done in 88 and get the language up to date on it.
I'll be honest, I'm at a bit of a loss. I was operating off the 1983 franchise agreement, and did not realize that back when I was in college, in '88, that there was an amendment. So if you could provide us with a copy of that, I'd really appreciate it.
Counselor Sotomayor.
And this really seems very advantageous to a lot of recycling. And before this came along, there were people and organizational collection of recycling things. Is there any way that you could maybe add an option where once a month in a weekend, somewhere in the city, people could bring their glass recycling and
Well, that option is available. So now we're talking about a depot, which needs to be licensed by the DEQ. So there's a lot of regulation associated with doing something like that, so.
Counselor Lammerman.
So just to understand this correct, thank you, Madam Mayor. Basically, if you didn't have the rate increase, you'd be looking at getting rid of glass recycling come June, correct?
Well, yes.
Okay.
The way it stands now, what our plan is, which I'm saying I'm very flexible. Our plan is to end that glass recycling just so we can continue to make the transition, meaning distributing out the 65-gallon blue recycle carts, removing the 14-gallon bins, and then, obviously and we're doing that right now. So folks that were swapping out the 65-gallon oil parts for the bin. So we're letting them know that we're ceasing glass collection. So if we're taking their bin and giving them a card, that they no longer have the opportunity to recycle at the curbside, but that option is available out there at the transfer station. So as of May 31, we still have 2,600 recycle carts to deploy. So that process is going to accelerate in June. And that's why we want to end that glass recycling as of May 31.
So I would just be in favor of having the city staff and the city attorney look at amending the current franchise agreement to remove any language of glass recycling and then just continue from there with an updated franchise agreement.
Well, just a little background with the RMA, they were initially going to eliminate glass recycling statewide, except on route commercial in the Tri-County area, which would have been Monmouth, Washington, and Clackamas County. And all that material was just going to be, all that collected material was just going to be crushed as road base. And then the CAA was going to fund depots, but when they realized how expensive they were and the regulation involved in establishing them, they kind of threw glass back in there about mid-25. So all of our planning, revolved around in early 2025 that glass collection was going to cease statewide.
Mr. Alverson, you have Mr. Burback behind you. Garland, can you walk up to the mic?
Garland Burback, 461 South First Street. The biggest reason we want to do away with the glass collection is there's probably out of our customer base, maybe 20% of the people collect the glass and we pick up. And so it's just not economically practical for us to be charging customers that don't do it and don't set glass out. And usually the people that do set the glass out, they've got one little bottle or one little jar. And we have customers that I've talked to that will collect Chris Holloman's one of them, and they'll collect the glass in a big box, and maybe once a month or every other month, they'll take it out to the transfer site and get rid of it. And as far as he's concerned anyway, it isn't a big deal. And I know it's not a big deal to Councilor Merriday. And so
Never spent a dime at Cottage Grove garbage.
Yeah. But you are full of, you know what, too.
Well, no, it's frugality, frugality.
Just wanted to bring that up, that's such a small percentage of the people, our customer base does the glass thing. That's the main reason we're really trying to do away with some of this stuff. The only places that really do a lot is the brew station and the other beer joint. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burback. Any other questions? Counselor Lammerman?
Madam Mayor, so do we want to get a consensus at council to have city staff and the attorney work on that?
Sure. I just have one more question. Yes. Can we get a consensus?
I just,
Perfect.
they're kind of looking at us for.
Yes. And I had a question from a constituent
Sure.
that they thought the stipulation for the garbage service to get funding for the new truck was to increase the amount of recyclables, or is?
So it is tripling. On the one slide we had on the left, what we were doing, if you wish to do that. There it is right there. So on the left is what we have been collecting. With the new uniform statewide collection list, even though we did start collecting that material on July 1, I'm finding most folks have no idea, even though that the recycling guide is printed on the back of every bill. We usually put messaging on the bill referring to that new recycling guide. But where a lot of people have became curious is when they've gotten their blue 65-gallon roll cart, you know, they're even coming out and go, what's going on? So, and obviously we're explaining, you know, that we're providing this cart to give you enough capacity to recycle all of these new items that are on the uniform statewide collections. So.
Perfect. Thank you.
I hate
Ms.
I
Conley?
hate asking, but I see that food and beverage glass is on the new list.
Well, so we're currently collecting it. So that's why it's there. So
Oh.
as of July 1, 2025, you know, we're still collecting food and beverage glass. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
But now it's not.
Well, it's still there. So.
Right.
Well, thank you, gentlemen.
Okay.
We appreciate you taking the time
bet.
to come out and explain all this to us tonight.
Okay. Thanks.
Item B, Human Resources Director, introduction, City Manager, Mr. Sauerwein.
Well, good evening, Your Honor, and members of the council. I just want to take an opportunity to introduce our new Human Resources Director, Lori English, and give Lori a chance to introduce herself and kind of tell you why she was crazy enough to take a job working with us. And
Hello, my name's Laurie English. I've been the HR director here at the City of Cottage Grove since April 15th. Prior to this, I was the HR director for a nonprofit that supports individuals with disabilities. I was there 6 years and we had about 200 employees, but unfortunately with financial cuts and changes, that agency has closed down. I had many opportunities to work at other companies, but really, really loved the people that I met with in the interview process and the people that worked here. And I just felt a deep connection to the city and everyone here. And I live in Pleasant Hill, and that's about it.
Does anyone have any questions for Lori?
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
We're glad you're here, Lori. Thank you. Item C, State of the Trees, Ms. Clemmer.
Well, I'm going to hand the mic over to the Urban Forestry Committee Chair, Justin Tidrick.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here today to present the state of the trees. So currently there are 6 filled seats on the Urban Forestry Committee. Myself, Justin Tidrick, Richard Vasquez, Tammy Stark, Jimmy Shaper, Deborah Bartlett, and Paul Higgins. This group continues to be highly engaged and committed to the strengthening Cottage Grove's urban forest, making it more resilient to weather events and being prepared for emerging threats like the emerald ash borer. This year, the city received its 32nd Tree City USA designation. This recognition, awarded by the Arbor Day Foundation, reflects our continued commitment to the urban forestry. To qualify, the city meets several criteria, including adopting an Arbor Day proclamation, hosting community celebration, maintaining an active urban forestry committee, and tracking volunteer hours, upholding a tree ordinance, and investing at least $2 per capita in the urban forestry programs. In addition, the city earned its 9th Growth Award from the Arbor Day Foundation. This award recognizes communities that go beyond the baseline requirements of Tree City USA and continue to expand and improve the urban forestry efforts, essentially doing more than the bare minimum, which we always like to see. In early April, the Urban Forestry Committee, city staff, and the community volunteers came together to plant a beautiful cascara tree in Silk Creek Park as part of our annual Arbor Day month planting celebration. Later in the month, the committee, with the help of staff, hosted a free tree giveaway at Corner Park, distributing 164 trees to 110 residents. It's encouraging to see the community shares the same enthusiasm for rebuilding and maintaining the urban forest canopy. Staff also partnered with LCOG to develop a tree inventory app, which will allow both staff and the committee to better track tree locations, conditions, and overall canopy coverage. This tool will help guide future planning efforts and ensure we're making informed decisions as we work towards our canopy goals. Looking ahead, the committee will once again host a booth in the annual Emergency Preparedness Fair. This year's focus will include proper pruning tips, techniques, and education on the emerald ash borer, and practical steps residents can take to better prepare their trees for severe weather. The city also recently completed its 20th year partnership with the Freshwater Trust to restore the west bank of the west bank of the Roe River. This project has significantly improved riparian habitat within the Roe River, the Row River Nature Park, creating a healthier, more resilient environment and native vegetation. Upcoming efforts include maintaining tree health in the North Regional Park and partnering with the Watershed Council to organize a community ivy removal event. We look forward to sharing more details as those plans are finalized. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Counselor Irvin.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Justin, for coming to present and for the volunteer efforts of the Urban Forestry Committee. One of maybe the mandates on the Urban Forestry Committee, or one of their stated goals, was to catalog the canopy. Can you give an update on the progress of inputting the trees to know what we have?
So, I mean, to be blunt, we're basically starting from scratch. We've got some very little information that was held over, but we're basically starting from scratch again. And that is the purpose of partnering with the app developer that is creating an app for tree inventory. And so using that, we will have a digital library of all of our trees. We'll have the caliper of the trees. We'll have the size of the canopy of the trees, and we'll actually, know what we're working with and how we're progressing, or when, terrible events like the ice storms come through, how we're digressing. So once we have the digital library, we will know where we stand. And with the help of staff and the committee, we're excited to get going on that. I think we're going to start as soon as this month.
Thank you for that. Anyone else? Well, thank you for all your volunteer hours. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Appearance of interested citizens. This is a time for citizen comment. The council will first take comments addressing items not listed on the agenda for a maximum of 30 minutes. The council will then take comments addressing action items on the agenda for a maximum of 30 minutes. Individual speakers must be recognized by the presiding officer, provide their name, identify whether they are a city resident, and if so, their ward. Please limit comments to 3 minutes or less with council approval. Comments regarding any matter scheduled for a public hearing may be provided only during that hearing. The council will not make any decisions based on public comment. However, staff and council may choose to ask questions or comment following the conclusion of citizen comments. Daniel Liberson.
Counselors. It's actually pronounced Liebertson, but that was pretty close. So I'm going to speak to an item that's not on the agenda, but is on a lot of people's minds, and that's the consideration of closing or curtailing the services severely of the library because of the budget crisis, which is very real and very difficult that we find ourselves in. My wife and I emigrated from San Francisco to Cottage Grove because we wanted a small, peaceful place. San Francisco has gotten very hectic. And we actually bought a house here 7 years ago and lived here part of the time, mainly in the summer. But we've now moved here permanently. And the thought of losing the library, which we both use, and which was one of the attractions that brought us here, among many others, the bookstores, antique shops, and the storied history of Cottage Grove as well. The thought of losing that was quite disconcerting. Also, the pool, which we use, was available to the public during the time we've been here, and not having that would impact both of us because we're swimmers. So I'm basically just want to urge the counselors and the budget committee to try to find, turn over every stone, try to find some funding to keep the library going. I'm concerned not only because, as I wrote to you in an email, it's important to seniors, people who can't afford to buy books, which have gotten quite expensive, people who can't afford to have internet connection. It's important to families who can leave their kids in the library. It's important to kids because they get educated there, in addition to in their classrooms. But I'm also concerned that Cottage Grove is a very distinguished little town. It has a tremendous amount to offer. That's what brought us here. And I'm worried about the future if we lose what I consider to be critically important elements of the culture in the city. I think it'll eventually affect our property values. People like my wife and I might not come here, might not like to live here anymore, which is going to affect the tax base. In short, please do your best. I realize it's a tough situation to preserve the library and its services and the pool as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Art Lancaster. Ms. Conley, I have this gentleman signed up twice on 2 different subjects.
Making sure it was on.
And just one. So we have 3 minutes for your full So both of your combined issues that you want to speak on have to
They're
be
two
in 3
different
minutes.
issues.
I'm sorry?
They're two different issues. Okay. Library closure. I keep hearing the library's gonna close. There's signs all over the city saying the library's gonna close. No one has ever said that the library's gonna close. No one. Yes, there's gonna be changes. But there has to be. There's gonna be changes all over the city. We have to make a difference. One place being cut a little bit doesn't hurt anything. The police department's been cut, the fire department's been cut, the city's been cut. Why is it the library can't be cut? Not all the way, but come on, we got to save something somehow. Okay, and the library is not going to close. Period. Okay. Main Street, this is a question about Main Street. I've heard different people saying this. Since Main Street's been fixed, there's people going around telling everybody they have to walk their bikes down that new stretch of Main Street. But I'm looking at the street and I'm seeing arrows with bicycles. What, where's the confusion here? Can you ride your bike down Main Street or can't you? That's a simple question. There's a lot of bicyclists around town. And that would suck to have to stop and walk all the way down Old Main because somebody's saying, I'm good.
Thank you. Counselor Mary Day.
I forget that thing all the time.
Mr. Lancaster, the current ordinance for the city of Cottage Grove is the designated downtown stretch. On the sidewalks, no wheeled vehicles are permitted. The main street is fully accessible to bicycles. Curiously enough, outside the downtown area, it is permissible to ride bicycles on the sidewalks. I find that in the ordinance. So, yeah, but that's the only area designated is Main Street.
Counselor Urban.
I could speak to that curiosity. So I take full credit as much as possible for influencing the ability to ride on sidewalks. Namely that there are zones where it's more dangerous, certainly to the downtown corridor where you have much pedestrian traffic going in and out. But we have sidewalks in front of our house and certainly restricted my kids from riding on the sidewalks illegally until we were able to acknowledge that it was actually safer to be able to ride on the sidewalks than having them go out into the street. So in some area, that was the compromise that the council at the time came up with, an exclusion zone downtown, but permissible, down in the other parts of town. There's a lot of not sidewalked blocks too. But yeah.
All right. Thank you. Tasha Laval. I hope I said that correctly. I am not doing well tonight with names. It's fine.
Okay. Greetings, city councilor, mayor, and whoever's here from the budget committee and fellow community members. I know the library is not closing. I have lived in and around this community for over 30 years. I live in Ward 2 with my husband and daughter, who is wise educated, and part of our future. I come here today with information surrounding the library. I have been working with a number of groups with interest in the well-being of the library. And we have gathered 341 hard copy and 32 online signatures as of this afternoon. Before coming here, we have well over 400 signatures from members of this community to urge adequate funding for the library. These signatures were gathered within 1 week, and there are more to come. The signatures ask for adequate funding of the library, which means to maintain a quality service for all people, including the employees, keeping hours that sustain the education, trust, and safe place for community now and in the future. Acknowledging Cottage Grove Public has put in a lot of sweat equity in the past, present, and honoring the future. And past by listening to the creative ideas the public came up with and have shared with you. And I'm sure there are more ideas out there. I have printed copies of some of those ideas and petitions to share with each of you. Thank you for your time and service to the people.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, I hope my tone was kind enough. I'm very nervous.
Oh, you're fine.
May I present these copies? So I want this to go on public record, and I also want whoever's at the press table to receive one. Okay. So do I just want the whole stack? Okay. Thank you.
All right, April Bender. April Bender.
My name is April Bender, and I'm with Vital Villages, Oregon. Our community is currently facing a $121,000 deficit that threatens the heart of our town, our pool, our library, and South Lane Mills, to name a few. I'm here to offer a budget bridge that solves this crisis tonight using money the city already has. We propose that the city uses its restricted housing fund to purchase the 2205 Highway 99 property, the former pallet shelter, and purchase that property from the general fund for $220,000. This move immediately unlocks the cash needed to save our community programs, leaving the city with a surplus of $99,000. Following this swap, we request a community benefit transfer of the former pallet shelter to Vital Villages, Oregon, ensuring it remains a permanent asset for the public good. The why, from travesty to redemption. This isn't just a financial puzzle, it's a human one. In August of 2023, I was locked out of my apartment and left on the sidewalk by the sheriff with my special needs and nonverbal autistic daughter. There was no help. It is a travesty that in our town, there's no place for families or single disabled mothers to go. I'm speaking from the fire of that experience to tell you it is time for redemption. We at Vital Villages, Oregon will transform the property into a permanent home for the South Valley Farmers Market and the service station, providing stability for homeless families, foster youth aging out of the system, and neurodivergent young adults. The multi-layered puzzle. This mission is a self-sustaining ecosystem designed to move our neighbors from crisis to career. The foundation. Our property at 77918 Highway 99 is being registered as an emergency shelter. We request the first $10,000 of the surplus to bring the site to full legal compliance, providing the safe sanitation and fire safety our neighbors deserve. The future. This safety allows us to launch our cottage cluster and workforce training program. We're creating a path where every resident gains the skills to build a stable life and a better future for our town. Waste to wealth. By joining St. Vincent de Paul's Cascade Alliance, we're using their proven blueprints to turn community waste into prosperity. We intend to acquire 55 Q Street, the Sunshine Nursery, that's for sale, as an agricultural hub and grow mushrooms there. And 45 Thomas Lane for a resale center, a food truck hub, and auto repair center. Now the reinvestment fund in partnership. With the support of the Woodard Foundation, we invite their business coach, David, who's been mentoring our founder, Randy Ross, to help us manage the remaining 89,000 surplus as a community reinvestment fund. This fund will serve as critical matching capital to unlock major grants, including potential partnerships with the University of Oregon and their new neurodivergent leadership program. This creates a mechanism where the city acts as an investor, receiving ongoing passive profits from these businesses to permanently fund our pool, library, and other programs. We've established a partnership with St. Vincent de Paul specifically to support families with children experiencing homelessness, providing wraparound services and healing wellness. The possibilities for this village economy are endless, and I invite the council and the budget committee to schedule a meeting with me this week to collaborate on this master plan. Let's choose growth and choose redemption. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew Gottlieb.
Hello, my name is Andrew Gottlieb. I've lived in our city for 33 years, and I am now working with Vital Villages as well. And hopefully soon to start my own, if all the stars should align, let's just say, which will be directed towards helping house and serve primarily the homeless, needy, and disabled veterans of South Lane and North Douglas County at its very heart. Through this, I am also working with a diverse team of entrepreneurs who have each one of us already committed to solving the local homeless issue, which I know we can all agree needs to change. Dusk till dawn camps will never solve the problem. The same as an artery bleeding out cannot be patched by a simple Band-Aid, nor will a lack of in the trenches, on the site, social workers in there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, management duties that must take place in order to bring this aspect of a much larger equation, the long needed resolve it truly deserves. For everyone who is experiencing now and in the near future, this our everyday all-American tragedy, homelessness. To this date, no US city has completely eliminated homelessness permanently. But several cities, most notably Houston, Texas, and smaller cities like Rockford, Illinois, and Bakersfield, California, have reached a point of greatest percentage of reduction of homelessness in the country. These cities have achieved their success by using a coordinated housing first approach, which rapidly moves people into permanent housing, followed by supportive services. I believe that we have a golden opportunity to perhaps become the first American city to 100% eliminate homelessness if we all pull together as a team. I don't know about everybody else here and on the council, but I personally would love to see us achieve a feat truly worthy of an All-American award and set a precedence for all the other cities in America, because every city in America has the same problem. And I believe that where there's a will, there's a way. And right here, right now, there is most definitely a will, which means there is ultimately a way. Thank you for your time, and please remember, it could happen to anyone at any time without any warning, sudden homelessness. So try to remember, homeless people are people too. They deserve dignity, respect, clean water, food, shelter, privacy, a warm bed to sleep in, light, electricity, the feeling of safety and hope, and being at home. I know that we can accomplish this, what I believe is our most important and greatest present community task. Let's do what it takes to truly change this country by changing our own home first and become the all-American city I know we can be again. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Olson.
Good evening. My name is Linda Olson. I'm Ward 3. I just returned from vacation and was unpleasantly surprised to hear that the transient room tax has now been proposed by our governor to be a slush fund. So I'm curious as to how it's going to impact our city, because that is our transient room tax that brings the tourists. It's promotional of our city. We don't have a dedicated industry to pull them in. I think that that's going to be a challenge that we're facing fairly soon because Lane County is trying their best to spend it as best they can as a slush fund right now. So bikes and scooters on the sidewalks. Unfortunately, downtown's Cottage Grove in our new Main Street section, I see a lot of motorized scooters and bicycles on our sidewalks. And it's frustrating as a pedestrian to have that continue. It says say walk your bikes. They seem to be ignoring it, unfortunately. When it comes to the library, we have many, many little libraries around town where the people who own the property have placed these on their property to exchange books for free within our community. We encourage people to utilize those. We do know that it does not take a full staff to operate our current library. And we have a library director who refuses to accept volunteer opportunities for the community members. So I think better leadership is needed. And if she is not aware or interested in doing that, I think that we need new leadership. It could be a lower level temporary or part-time person, but I think that our library can be saved. We're not going to close it. We're not trying to close the pool either, but we need to rethink this because volunteerism is what is holding our community together in so many aspects. So thank you.
Thank you. Audrey Milan.
I thank you all for your service to the community. And I hope, especially after our town hall, that you guys are really looking to find a way to not debilitate the services at our library. And I was part of the group gathering signatures for the petition you have. And I just want to convey to you guys what the library means in this community. It's not a partisan issue. It's not, one person that owns a store said, bring me a petition because all the moms come here and all the moms love the library. So this is a heartfelt organization that we have built over 139 years. Just in 2000, 450 residents of Cottage Grove lined up in the book brigade to move the books from the old library to the new library. And there was a sense of pride and jubilation. So I encourage you to continue to look for ways of funding. At the town hall, we presented lots of alternatives and to keep our library fully funded. Thanks.
Thank you. And I would just like to quickly comment on that too. That is something I have been saying for a long time, that the library and the pool should be, it's not a political issue. This is Cottage Grove. Everything we do up here as a council, we look at how it'll affect and then the trickle down effect. And as you know, we are in a very hard budget season. We were last year too. And so, and rest assured, this council and our budget committee is working very hard along with staff to find solutions. And we don't take it lightly. Councilor Lammerman.
Madam Mayor, a couple things I just want to touch on real quick in regards to the library is just the fact that we, as a city who funds the library solely, still have to be realistic about the numbers though. Over the last few years has had a very sharp decline in participation in 2020 and 2021 with 139 programs for children, 3,268 attended those programs. But then you look at within the last year, 164 children programs, only 336 participants. It's about the same number that signed the petitions. If you think about it, there was roughly 300 at our town hall. It's the same people using the same service. out of a town of 12,000. It's a very small number.
Isabel? And Isabel, I see that you are signed up twice as well, and I confirmed with
will.
yes, thank you. It's 3 minutes. for
Sure.
both items.
My name's Isabel and I am, I live in Cottage Grove. I pay property taxes. When I was young, me and my husband were poor and we would go to the library a lot. And I went to the library a lot. We would get bags, books and videos and it would open our minds. There was just too much. It was just, there's nothing like having your mind blown up open by new ideas and to have that available to all of our people that live here when they need it, when they're open to going, can change the world. We grew up and my husband is a mental health worker and he helps change people's lives. And I am a educational assistant and I help change people's lives. And I think that we need to have, open minds to like a positive on positive, opportunity in our city. Rather than, I know that they get training in the police. I think it's 3 months on the job training. And overall, in general, nationwide, they have gotten more robust and they have gotten more authoritative. And maybe they don't need that training. Maybe they were better before that training. Also, there is an effort. So we know, most of us have been here several times and we know that you're planning on diminishing the library a little bit. And also the volunteer, I have never heard of a library not taking volunteers. If you get a ticket, you can go get volunteer work in a library. And that's in most towns. And if this is an exception, I don't know, I would consider the 4-year to 8-year training that's in the library for each individual that's there is important. I think that's part of the opportunity that the library offers. There is an effort nationwide to close libraries. And I think that we need to stand up against that. Also, I would like to see in the budget, I would like to see the budget include alternative energy. I'm putting in an $8,000 Mason heater in my house that is half of that of an HVAC system. And it will heat the house and it will put out hardly any soot into the air because it's got so many tunnels within it that hardly any smoke makes it out the chimney. And you can do 4 pieces of wood to heat the whole house for 24 hours. There's so many different alternatives right now. And that will last for years and years. That Mason heater it could last 200-300 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Johanna Z.
So much to think about. I think we've exceeded our 30 minutes for public comment at this point. So, geez. Johanna Z, I live within city limits. Thank you, Madam Mayor and councilors. So it appears that for a long time, municipalities and districts have enjoyed a sense of comfort with their financial state. Certainly not across the board, but not what we're experiencing right now with budgets in cities and school districts. Just look at our local school district, who, by the way, laid off 3 librarians at the school district, among other 17 positions. I heard about 20 positions total there. So everyone is experiencing it because the systems are not sustainable. And I'm not going to be saying anything you guys don't know. I'm just hoping others listening We need to plan now. And as Chair Irvin had asked us at that first meeting to note the policies of the Budget Committee with regard to our debt, our contingency, and our unappropriated fund balance. Are we doing everything we can to move in the direction of a healthy future for our community and to decrease the financial burden on our residents? On Thursday, we meet again. The invitation is to carefully comb through each department in the general fund and see if there are unanswered questions and ask, can we do better without compromising the needs of that department? And after spending many hours this past week, again combing through, I think we can. We value the staff and the services that are provided. Staff has put in an extensive amount of work into getting the proposed budget well ahead of time and with transparency. So thank you, of course, for everything. This was, the council asked and you guys delivered. So at the same time, we're asking the maximum tax rate allowable by law, and the water rates are going to be increasing again this year. So there are details missing in some of these line items that we don't have that are in other budgets that you see in other cities. It is our duty as citizens to carefully scrutinize, ask questions, and fill in those blanks. Not for the purpose of nickel and diming any department or person or anything like that, but for the purpose of transparency, accountability, and building trust in our community. This is where we learn and grow and pull together, not by holding desperately on to the status quo. Sometimes things need to change. By the way, on the way here, someone asked me, when are they going to start allowing volunteers at the library? My teenager has been asking so many times and she's tired of being rejected. So I said I would ask when that might happen. We've got a lot of people really wanting to support this. And just to note, all of the services, it looks like, are the same as last year. All the services for the library are funded. It was just the personnel that has changed. And I'm excited. I'm looking forward to Thursday. I'm looking forward to a great conversation and looking through and spending a little time and asking more questions, because I think that is our duty. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Go to items on the agenda. Bruce Kelch. Right. Public hearings, I see none. Before I go to consent agenda, I would like to acknowledge that, can we please have order? Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge that it is National Public Works Week, and I want to recognize our Public Works Department leadership, Director Stewart, that just does a stellar job for this community. And thank you. Thank you for that. Consent agenda. Councilor Irvin.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
I second.
We have a motion with the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Resolutions and ordinances. Item A, resolution amending the resolution number 2001, the Housing Development Cost Assistance Program. City Manager, Mr. Sauerwein.
Well, good evening again, Your Honor, and members of the council. This is really a follow through from what we discussed at the last budget committee meeting. As you'll recall, we have a program called the Housing Development Cost Assistance Program.
Real quick. This is actually resolution number 2177, correct?
Yes.
Not 2001.
Yes. Yeah. What this program essentially does is it allows the city that if there's a group like Homes for Good or Habitat for Humanity that wants to build in the city, they will often ask that we waive their system development charges and also their building permit fees. Now, waive is a bit of a misnomer because we're still going to need to pay that money somehow. So this fund was set up originally $150,000 from the general fund and $50,000 from our building department to fund it. The current budget has $200,000 in it, plus about $20,000 in interest. So it's roughly $220,000. Now, as we discussed at the last budget committee meeting, the budget committee is interested in perhaps transferring some of that money back to the general fund. And effectively what this resolution does is give you, the city council, authority to do just that. So effectively, by passing this resolution this evening, what you're doing is giving yourself authority to transfer the money from the housing fund back to the general fund. It does not take any action. That'll take a separate action for the council at a future date. But the changes to this resolution gives you that authority. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions you might have.
Any questions? Counselor Urban.
Or just, I know in our previous discussion, we talked about a portion of the funds being transferred. Is there anything that in this that would prohibit if the council decided to transferring more than like transferring the portion back to the housing or the building permit fund department as well as the general fund?
Oh, well, let me just read you the language changes. Funds remaining in the trust fund at the end of the fiscal year will remain in the fund and be carried over to next year. The new language that was added is unless moved out of the trust fund pursuant to city council action. So.
Any other questions? Counselor Urban.
Well, I would move that the council adopt resolution number 2177, which is amending resolution 2001, the Housing Development Cost Assistance Program.
I second.
We have a motion with a second. Any more discussion?
I just want to clarify that a clean copy of the resolution, not this legislative version, is what that motion adopts.
Will the recorder please call the roll?
Counselor Merida,
Aye.
Counselor Lammerman,
Aye.
Counselor Irvin,
Aye.
Counselor Heinck,
Aye.
Counselor Settlemyre,
Aye.
Counselor Wilson,
Aye.
Mayor Solsby.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Counselor Irvin.
Probably should have said this in the discussion portion, but I just want to clarify that this is not a fix of any ongoing matter. What I understand this, why I support doing this, or allowing us the ability to do this is a stopgap measure to put a more permanent solution in place. Sometimes the shock of, some changes can make it so that you fail to even start on the future. So some sort of a hold me over, and I don't know exactly where it would be allocated yet, but is going to be necessary to give people time in the various their various capacities to do what we need to do going forward. So not a fix, but at least we have this.
Counselor Settlemyre.
In the whole conversation as to how much of this fund and all of those things, I hope gets put in a really good perspective when we see what the staff comes back with other alternatives possible also. And it's just so much nicer to start seeing possibilities when we look at trying to balance what everybody agrees is a really tough decision or group of decisions.
Item 11, business from the city council. letter to Governor's Prosperity Council. Councilor President, Councilor Irvin.
Thank you. Thanks for allowing this item here. This was an item that I wanted to bring to the council to call for our advocacy action as a council on behalf of the city of Cottage Grove. So we've had notably a number of presentations over the years, economics needs analysis done, consultants have come in, they've talked about the opportunities that we have here in the community, what some of the impediments are to realizing those things. And some of them rise to the state level, maybe some to the county. But one of the ways I think we can be effective as a council is to delineate from our perspective, from the perspective of the city of Cottage Grove, what are areas that we would be able to do better if the rules, policies, legislation were different. And so I would like, in some way, shape or form, I was thinking of at least initially in a letter to be able to present that to the Governor's Prosperity Council. There's a liaison there, and that's a council that's been assembled to hear from business, industry, nonprofits, cities, individuals, what is needed to take Oregon from basically the bottom of the pack in terms of business friendliness and economic opportunity to the stated goal of top 10% in the nation over roughly the next 10 years. So those will have to be some fairly substantial changes, I think, to affect that. And if somebody's asking for opinions, I would like to share a collective opinion if we can coalesce around it. So that's my proposal. I don't know the logistics of that, if that's a letter that we want to direct staff to seek input from us and try to craft, or if a committee would want to work on it and present it to the council. I think it is fairly time sensitive in that, this council is given recommendations. They're already doing presentations to various groups about some of the feedback that they're receiving. So that's my report. Request.
Oh, Your Honor, members of the council, I would be happy to work with a subcommittee of the city council to put together some sort of as you say, a letter or a statement of purpose, and bring that back to the council for approval.
All right.
Yeah, since if you want
Councilor Sotomayor.
Happy to serve on that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is anybody in it? Obviously, I work with Councilmember Irvin. Are there other council members who'd like to be a part of that?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm going to chime in if that's okay. These ad hoc council committees are subject to public meetings rules. So just as long as those notice and public attendance and everything is complied with.
So can we send out surveys asking for input from the full council as we're trying to put a letter together?
Go ahead.
If we're going to survey the entire council, then we should do it at a public regular city council meeting. What I would hope is that we could put together, I'll call it a list of bullet points as a committee, and then bring that back to the council.
Ms. Conley, you look like you have something to say.
Well, I was just thinking it through. So if an individual councilor had an idea for this ad hoc subcommittee, they could send it to the city manager and it would be added to that proposal.
Yeah, I would just follow up on Councilmember Irvin said is I think time is of the essence for this. It's something we need to, if we want to have Cottage Grove's voice heard, then we need to move fairly judiciously with this.
Would it work for the council to have a draft prepared and then as part of another agenda item, edits and modifications so that it can be brought in and circumvent a lot of time and committees and efforts.
Yeah.
Some low hanging fruit can be put onto the. Okay.
Thank you. Item B, rescheduling of city council meeting. Mr. Sauerwein.
Well, good evening again, Your Honor, members of the council. As seems to happen every year, our second council meeting in May falls on Memorial Day. So staff is recommending that we move it from Monday to a Tuesday night. And it's my understanding from the city recorder that a quorum of the council members have responded to her saying they would be available on that Tuesday night.
So do you need a consensus?
We would need a motion for that because you are officially moving the date of your city council meeting.
Councilor Irvin.
Thank you, Mayor. That's the 20 or what? What's the date?
It's just 26th.
Okay, so I move that the city council move their May 25th meeting to May 26th at the regular time.
Yeah.
Second.
We have a motion with the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, concerns from council. Councilor Lammerman.
Madam Mayor, Council. So to touch on the garbage issue, are we going to have a amendment in time for a future meeting in June to their franchise agreement? Or is it going to be further out than that? Because I know it was stated it takes a while, but I know just a simple amendment doesn't take that long, I would think. But
I think the straightest answer I can give you is that Carrie and I plan to talk about it and also involve Tim in the conversation. And, you know, we understand the timeline that's involved.
some kind of an estimate?
Yeah, I get, you know.
By the end of June?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I doubt that we'll have anything by the second meeting in May, but we will aim for having this back to the council in June.
Okay.
Anyone else? Councilor Mary Day.
Thank you, Mayor. A member of the public had brought to our attention that Oregon Revised Standard Statute 357.621 prohibits the abolishment or the withdrawal of support from a public library. We received legal advice. Our public library was founded officially by ordinance number 331 on March 4th of 1912. That does not mean that library activity was limited by the state. There was an informal library movement where a collection of books migrated from lawyers' offices to public reading rooms before ending up in council chambers. This ordinance established a fund and directed a board to be established to operate our public library. The revised Oregon statute in question was passed in 1975. And since our library was established before this date, it will not apply. It would only apply should through ordinance we had aligned our library to this statute. So I wanted to bring that to make sure that we follow, that the public knows we did follow through with this question.
Councilor Urban.
Thank you, Mayor. I am interested. I appreciate that we received a stack petition material with suggestions. I wonder if there's any update or follow up on the insurance side of things with the E&O insurance suggestion, or if there's any coverage for what occurred, if it could alleviate some of the blow, and maybe if there's been any progress on conversations surrounding general which I guess it would be materials and services and contractual services around the broader insurance question.
Well, good evening again, Your Honor. We are going to be having a presentation from Brown and Brown, who is our insurance agent, who represents us with City Insurance Services, our insurance carrier. And one of the issues I've asked him to discuss is the issues of air and emissions insurance, and speak to the specific issue that you've raised.
Counselor Lammerman.
So there's a lot of statements from the public in regards to don't close the pool. I already know the answer to this question, but Mr. Sourwine, can you state who owns the swimming pool?
The swimming pool is owned by the school district.
So the city does not own the swimming pool. So we can't technically close it.
No, you had a presentation at a previous council meeting with representatives from the school district who I think rather eloquently explained how the pool is funded, now obviously where it's located, and, talked about, what the city's contribution was for. And I think they talked about, just as any other government service, that if the revenue goes down, they're going to have to make some tough decisions. The school district is in many ways in the same situation that the city is. I mean, we've been talking since December that we knew we were going to have to make some hard decisions this year with our budget. And I believe the school district has done the same.
Okay, I just wanted to verify that for the members of the community who keep insisting that we control if the pool closes or not. And then there's a lot of volunteer chatter. And I just wanted to mention that the city, in fact, does have a link on the city's website to sign up to volunteer. So there is that option as well. Other than that, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I have a great announcement. The Woodard Family Foundation decided to put their support behind the Wall Dogs and the 50th anniversary celebration of Animal House in the city of Cottage Grove in 2027. And so they have gifted us first 15,000 that'll go to set building for the sets of the original Animal House, in hopes that eventually we will have a Hollywood Museum in Cottage Grove to bring in tourism. And since there's been so many movies filmed in our locations around town. And we are also, and the total that they are giving right now is 125,000 pledged to us to apply also for a travel organ grant that we have already put in for. And we have some real crackerjack grant writers on the case, and we were advised that we needed to apply for this loan that we were, our loan grant, that we, it's not a loan, it's a grant, that we are an exceptional fit. And so we are very optimistic that it's a good possibility. So it is a very competitive grant. And so we'll be very fortunate if we do receive it, but I do believe we have a really good shot at it. So we're very excited, and we've got a lot of irons in the fire right now trying to get support for this project. And it's looking very good right now. So we're very enthusiastic about it. And also, I need to say, she's going to hate me for this, but today is Georgia Haskell's birthday back there in the back. CEO of the Chamber. Happy birthday, Georgia. And what are you doing here on your birthday? Sorry, Georgia. All right. Business from the city manager.
Well, good evening again, Your Honor, members of the council. Let's hear it for May birthdays, since the city recorder, the deputy city recorder, and the city manager, along with Georgia, all have birthdays in May. So. First off, I just want to invite everyone to our historic Main Street grand opening celebration this Saturday. Really appreciate seeing everybody there. We start at 11 o'clock from 11 to 2:30. It's going to be a great event. We're closing off Main Street. All of the local businesses are going to be open. The restaurants are going to be open. We're going to have a band, and huge thank you to Cameron for once again providing the sound system for the event. We're going to do multiple ribbon cuttings and try to celebrate everyone who provided funding from the federal government and local governments, and celebrate some of the folks who, let's be honest, it's been 15 years in the making to get this project underway. So we want to thank a lot of the people who've helped us along the way. And we certainly also want to reach out to the contractor, Wildish, and all of their subs, who I think just did a phenomenal job on this project. So let's give ourselves a round of applause. It's really the biggest. Just a couple of things that I wanted to cover. First, we've talked about doing a citywide cleanup. We kind of had two ideas for that. Maybe doing a volunteer program to kind of build some community spirit and fight litter. And also doing cleanup day where people could drop off everything from old paint to scrap wood, whatever it is that's filling up your garage. If you ever see my garage, and those are really kind of two ideas that city staff has been working on. We've had a request from council to perhaps create a city council subcommittee that may have some additional ideas. So looking for volunteers again for a subcommittee. If there's council members that want to work on putting something like this together, don't all speak at once, but if we can get a couple of people to be involved in that, it'd be really helpful. Let me know in the next week or so, and we'll start to put together a group. So for that. And then also we are working with our friends at Weyerhaeuser. They're in the process of completing a major upgrade to their facility, and we want to get the city council out there so that you can do a tour of the Weyerhaeuser facility for council members, and we'll invite other folks to that tour as well. And then finally, just looking ahead, we've discussed the fact that urban renewal has to have its own budget. We also discussed the fact the first year that urban renewal is in place, it's only going to generate about $45,000, and we don't see any of that money until really the end of this calendar year when the property tax revenue comes in. But on May 19th, the budget committee will have to review the urban renewal budget. They'll have to have a public hearing on that. And also the city council meeting at their June 8th meeting will have a public hearing for urban renewal. And then on June 22nd, hopefully we'll adopt the city's regular budget and then also the urban renewal budget. What that looks like practically in a meeting is you, the city council, also sit as the urban renewal agency board. Our budget committee also sits as the budget committee for the urban renewal agency. So at each of those meetings, the budget committee and the city council will complete their work for the evening. We'll adjourn the city council meeting, and then we'll immediately start you sitting as the either the budget committee or the agency board for urban renewal. So this year it's going to be a fairly simple process again because there's not much to the budget, but in future years there'll be significantly more discussion as you sit as the urban renewal agency and also as part of the urban renewal budget. So with that, I'd conclude my report and be happy to take any questions you might have.
Any questions? Councilor Merida.
Thank you, Mayor. Did you have any time frame for the citywide cleanup?
As we've discussed before, I kind of wanted to get us through at least the beginning of the budget process. I'd like to initiate, again, I'm looking for ideas from the council, but I'd like to initiate a citywide cleanup as far as, something that, we work with different groups around the community, as early as July, and maybe aim for later in the summer to have the cleanup day where folks can, empty out and, like I said, get rid of all of their stuff. A lot of that also is coordination. We have to work with our friends at Cottage Grove Garbage and also a couple different county agencies to coordinate some of those things.
I do really like that idea of maybe getting the service clubs involved and maybe the high schoolers. That would be great.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen similar programs be really effective in other communities.
Business from the city attorney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. It's interesting, the two things I was going to mention actually came up during tonight's meeting. So I was going to confirm that staff at least knows we put out a quarterly newsletter. And I'm not sure if it gets forwarded to counselors, but it can be helpful. And this month, this quarters in particular, had an article on committees and subcommittees, which then came up, just as I was about to talk about it. It also had two different articles on legislation this past legislative session. So ask for it, ask your staff for it. It gets distributed to them. And then interestingly enough, in the public comment, a mention was made to the two different provisions of your council rules, the 3 minutes or less per person. It's actually, I just wanted to confirm that's the language in Rule 11.1. And it also limits then items not on the agenda. The total time committed to that is 30 minutes, as was mentioned. And I just don't know if anyone's tracking it. I'm not. And I thought maybe I should be, but I thought I would raise it just to make sure that that's happening. And the same for then items on the agenda, it's a separate 30-minute chunk, 3 minutes each per person. And then when is this Animal House celebration happening?
That's the last week in August 2027.
Okay. That's it for me. Thanks so much.
Well, it's a shorter meeting tonight. We are adjourned.
Pair up.